Hi, home buddies. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Amy. Today is a very special day because we are going to make homemade spaghetti sauce. Now, the sauce that I'm going to make today is going to be a meat sauce. That's our number one favorite type of sauce. I don't make marinara or plain tomato sauce very often because my husband and son and I like the taste of the meat sauce. The meat that I'm going to use today is Italian sausage and one braciole. So I'll show you those ingredients when I go upstairs. I'm filming downstairs because I don't want to be loud because it's early in the morning on Sunday and I don't want to wake up Joe by talking too much. So I decided to come downstairs. All right, this is a very important video for our family because we don't have a video of my grandmother or even my mother cooking sauce. So it's important for me to document for future generations and my son how we make our spaghetti sauce, how we make our pasta sauce. All right, a couple things to note. Number one, it doesn't matter how many people follow a recipe. Every single sauce is going to taste differently. My grandmother's sauce tasted different than my mother's sauce. My mother's sauces tasted different than my sauce. And for the future generations, your sauce will taste different than my sauce. So it's interesting that we all follow similar recipes, but yet all our sauces taste different. One of our favorite types of spaghetti sauce is tomato sauce with meatballs. That is going to be a separate video, but I'm not doing meatballs today. So I'm just going to show you the basic, how to make a basic spaghetti sauce with Italian sausage and or braciole. But the meatball is our favorite. So that'll be a separate video where I go over how I make the sauce with meatballs. I typically make sauce on the weekend, especially when I'm working. You know, as I've mentioned in earlier videos, I'm a full-time teacher. So during the school year, I will make sauce either Saturday morning or Sunday morning. I always said do it in the morning. You have to make sauce in the morning because it's going to simmer all day long and it's going to be ready for dinner. You can't whip up a really good tasting spaghetti sauce an hour before dinner. It has to simmer all day on a low heat. And you have to stir it. You know, so it has to be done on a day when you're going to be home, you're going to be sitting in the kitchen, doing things around the house, and you have time to stop and go stir your sauce. So typically for me, it's a Sunday morning activity. But in the summer, any day could be sauce day because I'm not working. But today is Sunday. So today we're going to have Sunday sauce. Joe and I are going to have pasta for dinner. And the rest of the sauce will go into the fridge to cool tonight. And then I will take a few containers of it and I will put it in the freezer. I always keep sauce in my freezer. It's great for a quick dinner, especially during a weeknight when you're working. So you keep a couple containers of sauce in your freezer. When you want to eat, you pop it out of the container, put it in a saucepan with a lid, put it on low heat, and it will gradually melt. It takes a half an hour to melt while you boil your pasta water. So it's great to I always have sauce in my freezer. So one of the reasons I'm making sauce today is because I don't have any more sauce in my freezer. I used it all up. So I need to restock my freezer with sauce. But again, if you always have sauce in your freezer, then you always have a quick homemade dinner that you can make on a weeknight when you're working. So that's my advice, is to always keep sauce in the freezer. So you can't put hot sauce in the freezer, so put it overnight in the fridge to cool off. And then the next morning, take as many containers out as you want, pop it in your freezer, you're good for 2 weeks, a month. So that's what that's how I deal with my sauce. I am going to make a medium pot of sauce today because Julius is away at college already and it's just me and Joe at home and I don't need as much sauce. Now, if this was a few years ago when Julius was home, then I would make a lot more sauce because we had another mouth to feed. If you have a larger family, you could double the recipe. You could add another can of tomatoes, like crushed tomatoes. That will add more to your sauce. But again, I'm making it for Joe and I, so I don't need gallons and gallons of sauce. So I'm just going to make a smaller pot of sauce with meat. So that's the plan for today. I already pulled out my ingredients, so I'll show you that in a minute. And this will be great to document how we make our sauce. And yes, in our family, we call it sauce. My grandmother on my mother's side did call it gravy. That generation called sauce gravy, but my mother never called it gravy. She always called it sauce. Therefore, my brother and sister and I call it sauce, and nobody calls it gravy anymore. But yes, I know that a lot of people call it gravy. There's a big debate. Is it gravy? Is it sauce? In our family, we just call it sauce. So we're making sauce, Italian sauce. All right, so let's take you upstairs and I'll show you what I've pulled out so far. I'll show you the meat that I have ready to go and all the prep I have done. And then we're going to cook. All right, we're in the kitchen, ready to make Sunday sauce. So I have my great-grandmother looking over my shoulder here. That's my great-grandma Petrocelli and her husband. So that's my maternal great-grandmother. So my grandmother was her oldest daughter. So it's my grandmother and my mother who really taught me how to make sauce. And I'm going to show you now, so it's in our family, how we make grandma's sauce. So let me show you what I have pulled out already for ingredients. I always keep sausage in my freezer. So I have defrosted this in the fridge. So you just pull it out the day before so it's defrosted. So that's sweet sausage. And I have a pork braciole that my father brought me from Uncle Giuseppe's in New Jersey. And that's going to give the sauce a lot of flavor. So I'm not overloading the sauce with a lot of meat because I'm making a small pot of sauce. So that's the only meat we're going to use, but it'll be plenty for me and Joe. I have 1 cup of chopped yellow onion. And I have about 3 cloves of chopped garlic that I just chopped that we're going to need. I also have my big saucepan ready to go. I have a splatter cover that I'm going to put over the saucepan and a big frying pan. I'm going to put olive oil in here, and this is where we're going to fry our meat, and then we're going to fry our garlic and onions. Let me show you the tomatoes I have. I'm going to do 4 cans of tomatoes. You could add a 5th can if you want to make more of this sauce. So I always start with at least 1 can of San Marzano Italian peeled tomatoes. I sometimes use 2 cans of this. Today I'm going to use 1 can of this. I have 1 can of Italian crushed tomatoes. And I have 2 cans of puree. So I do like to use Cento brand, but you can use any brand of canned tomatoes. This is a ShopRite brand. But any brand of tomatoes will work. You're also going to need 2 cans of tomato paste. This is a 6-ounce can. So you're going to need 12 ounces of tomato paste. These cans of puree and crushed tomatoes are 28 ounces. So I'm going to use 4 cans of tomatoes and 2 cans of paste. Again, if you wanted to make a little bit more, you could add another can of crushed tomatoes or puree, either one. I have my olive oil. So I'm going to put my olive oil in the pan. So I'm going to warm it up so I can saute the meat. So I'm going to put this on medium-high burner. While I'm waiting for the olive oil to heat up, I'm going to open up the cans of tomato. I've opened up all my cans of tomato. All right, honestly, normally when I cook sauce on a Sunday morning, I'm in my pajamas. I don't care if I get it dirty. But if you're dressed for the day, do not wear a great shirt that you love or your favorite blouse or your favorite dress when you're making sauce, because it's going to splatter and you're going to get messy. And tomato sauce does stain. So wear something junky or your pajamas or a sweatshirt that you can easily clean, because this is a messy cooking job. So you don't want, that's why pajamas are the best. So I got up today and I got dressed, did my hair, put my hair up so it would be out of the way, put makeup on because I was filming today. But if I wasn't filming, I would have got up, taken a shower, put my pajamas back on and just cooked, and then probably changed my shirt after because it would have been full of sauce. So it is a messy, messy process. Don't wear good clothes when you're making spaghetti sauce. All right, the first mission we're gonna do while we're waiting for the olive oil to heat up is we're gonna smash our San Marzano tomatoes. So let's do that. All right, I've already opened my San Marzano tomatoes. I'm gonna pour this can into my big pot. Now I'm gonna put a little water in here to get all the goodness out. Just put a little bit of water in and spin it around. Use a wooden spoon, spin this around. Get all that good tomato sauce out of the can, and we're going to pour this into the pot. Okay, so I have my San Marzano tomatoes with a little bit of water in the pot. I need to smash these tomatoes now. I use a tomato masher to mash my tomatoes. This is where it's going to get messy. Told you that was going to be a mess. That's usually where you get the most splattered, is smashing those tomatoes. They're going to explode. My grandmother used her hands to smash them. It's still just as much of a mess if you use your hands or if you use a tomato masher. I'd rather not get my hands into it. So I just use a potato masher to mash the tomatoes. If you don't like chunky sauce, you don't like the pieces of onion in there, you don't like the pieces of tomato, when the sauce is finished cooking, take all the meat out and use an immersion blender and blend it smooth. We like the chunks, so I typically don't blend it smooth, but sometimes if I have a picky eater in the house, I will blend it smooth so that nothing is wasted. I don't want to see a plate with a pile of onions on it to be going into the garbage. To me, that's a waste. So I will blend it if I know someone's coming over who's very picky and will pick out vegetables. So I just blend it so that nothing's wasted. But Joe and I, we don't pick things out. We're going to eat it all. So I'm not really going to blend this. So there will be pieces of chunks of tomato, chunks of onion and garlic in our sauce. But again, if you don't like that, use an immersion blender, blend it together and put the meat back in it. All right, now that I have my tomatoes mashed, I'm going to add the crushed tomatoes and the puree into the pot. And I'm going to start adding the meat to the olive oil because the olive oil is hot. All right, you're gonna cook the meat, sear it on all sides, and then you're gonna add it into the pot with the tomatoes. So while that's cooking, I'm gonna add all the rest of the tomato cans, the puree and the crushed tomatoes into my pot, sauce pot. Each of those cans, I'm going to put water mix it up, make sure that I got all the tomato goodness out of all 3 of those cans. I'm not adding a lot of water, maybe a 1/4 cup of water. Adding about a 1/4 cup of water to each of these cans, and then you're mixing all the tomato goodness together so it all comes out. And you're going to pour this into the pot. I sometimes use one of these cans as my utensil holder, so I don't get my utensil holder dirty. So, now, I use tap water. If you don't like using tap water, you can use bottled water, drinking water, to add to your sauce. So I did add a lot of water to the sauce. I added about, a cup of water to the sauce. Don't worry about it. It's going to cook all day, and that water is going to evaporate out, so it's not going to be a watery sauce when it's done cooking if you cook it all day. All right, we need to turn the meat in the pan. Notice I did not crowd the pan with too much meat. I only put 4 pieces of meat in my frying pan because you want it to brown and caramelize. So let's turn our meat now. See how caramelized that is? I use a splash guard. All right, let's turn it again. Once this meat is done cooking and it's browned on all sides, I'm going to pop it into my saucepan with the sauce, and then I'm going to put it on a low heat on the back burner and let it start warming up. And it's going to cook all day. One other ingredient that I didn't mention is I'm going to put a lot of fresh basil into this sauce, so let me grab some of that and clean it. One other tip that my grandmother taught me was when making sauce, it doesn't matter what kind, unless you're making pizza sauce. But if you're making sauce for pasta, never add oregano. Only add basil. She only used sweet basil in her sauces. She never put oregano in her sauce or in her meatballs, because oregano is a very powerful seasoning and it will overtake the other flavors in the sauce. So she said, unless you're making pizza sauce where you want that oregano flavor, she never put oregano in her sauce, and her sauce was delicious. So taking from her advice, I don't put any oregano. I will put fresh basil, and I even put a little bit of dried basil into my sauce. That's it. I don't put any other herbs in my sauce, just salt, pepper, black pepper, and a lot of basil. So I've already chopped up some basil. I'm gonna put that in my sauce now because I'm getting ready to warm my sauce up. The onions are looking good. They're caramelized. And I salted them a little bit. And now it's time to add the garlic. You don't want the garlic to cook very long, so this is very important. I'm going to put the garlic in the pan, and I'm going to mix it around a little, and then I'm going to immediately start putting the tomato paste in the pan, because the garlic you only want to saute it for about a minute. So while that's sauteing, I'm going to be putting in the paste, and then we're going to mix it all together in the paste so that the garlic doesn't get burned. If the garlic gets burned, it has a bitter taste, and you don't want that in your sauce. So here we go. Add water to this. I fill up the can with water, mix it around, and I'm going to add this to the garlic and the onions. Mix it around and add it to the pan. All right, let's start mixing this so that the garlic stops cooking and fry. We want the garlic to stop frying, so we're going to mix the water and the paste together so it's all incorporated, and then I'm going to add the other can of paste water. But first, let's get all this mixed together. Start getting it going. Get it going, get it going, get it going. See, it all starts to mix. Now we need to add one more can of water to this. Okay, I've added water to my can. I'm going to pour this in with the other paste. All right, now incorporate all the water and the paste together. And it will be a thick tomato paste mixture. with the garlic and the fried onions. So that's looking very good. It's all incorporated. I'm going to flatten it out. Okay. Again, this is good to use a big frying pan because you need to cook this paste. All right, I'm going to let that fry. This is the most important part of the sauce making process, according to my grandmother, my mother's mother. Grandma always told me you have to fry the paste and cook it really well before you put it with the rest of your sauce in the pot. If you put raw paste in that pot of sauce, it's not going to cook. You're going to have raw paste in your sauce. So it's very, very important to fry the paste. I fry it for 20 minutes. And it will turn a little bit darker. It'll turn a little, a little bit deeper red. And you have to keep stirring it so it doesn't burn. But this is what you need to do. You need to keep frying your paste. Keep frying your paste. You don't want raw paste in your sauce. So that was my grandmother's most important tip. You gotta fry the paste. So I'm gonna fry this for a good 15-20 minutes and make sure that it's fully cooked before we put it in the pot of sauce. So I have the pot of sauce back here heating up. When this paste is done, when it's done, again, you have to keep stirring it so it doesn't burn, but you want your paste to fry. I'm going to put the paste into the pot with the rest of the sauce. I'm going to move it to the front burner. I'm going to cover it with my trusty splatter cover, and it's going to simmer all day long until dinner time. So keep an eye on your paste. Do not let it burn. Now, my mother's mother, my grandmother, died when I was 42. I'm very lucky to have her for all those years. So I learned a lot from her in terms of cooking. And I remember at her funeral, my mother's best friend, who was not Italian, but who, of course, grew up and knew my grandmother very well. She came up to me at the funeral and said, one thing I always remember that your grandmother taught me was to fry the paste in the sauce. It's the most important step. I said, yep, that's what she always said, the fry. So even at her funeral, people were talking about, you gotta fry the paste. So it was the most important thing that Grandma always talked about. So, Julius, fry your paste. Fry your paste. That's what Great-Grandma wanted every grandkid and great-grandkid and friend of the family and everyone to know. You gotta fry your paste. So we're frying the paste, Grandma. So am I doing a good job? I always talk to my grandma when I'm doing this. So I'm like, is this long enough, Grandma? Have I fried it long enough? Give me a sign. So, again, it's going to be 15 minutes. Doesn't matter. Keep frying your paste. Keep frying your paste. You want it cooked. You don't want it raw. When that's done, I'm going to be spooning it into the saucepan. All right. While I'm doing this, while I'm stirring this, I might as well tell you that, I am a sauce snob. I don't like buying jarred sauce in the store. I feel like none of those sauces taste homemade to me. And it really isn't that hard to make your own sauce. And it's, it's an effort. It's a day of cooking, but you have a whole month of food. You have a whole month of sauce if you make a big pot of it. So to me, the flavor and the fact that it's homemade is more important than the convenience of buying a jar of crappy sauce. So I will not buy jarred sauce. I don't care. I use my homemade sauce for everything that I need sauce for. Chicken cutlets, if I want to make chicken cutlet parmesan, I use my sauce. I use my sauce in stew recipes when it calls for tomato sauce. So you can make a pot of sauce and use it in many, many recipes. It's very versatile. And so I'm sorry, I'm not buying. I don't buy jarred sauce, and that's just, I'm a snob that way. But I think it's important to know how to make my own sauce. It's part of our family history and our family legacy. And I really hope that Julius looks at this video in the future and makes his own sauce too, because that's part of our family Italian history, is making our own Sunday sauce. So I am a sauce snob. All right, so it's only been cooking for about 5 minutes. It needs at least 10 minutes more, but it is looking good, and you can hear it sizzling. It is frying. Is it work to stir this? Yeah, but it's only for 15 minutes. It's definitely worth it in the end. So, keep stirring. Now I have my saucepan on low, so I don't need to stir this yet, but after I add the hot paste, the sauce is going to heat up very quickly, and then I'm going to need to stir it. So I stir my sauce about every half an hour. And you want to scrape the bottom of this frying pan, by the way, and get all that goodness. You want all that meat taste, and that meaty, fatty flavor in your paste. So when you're cooking down this paste, you're going to be scraping the bottom. I use this. This is like a bamboo stir fry. I guess it's a spatula that I like to use when I'm stirring my paste. You can use a spoon. I have my big spoon ready to spoon it into my pan in a little while. So I'm going to cook this until it's darker color. And again, it's looking good. It is frying. You can hear it frying. All right, let that go for a little bit. Don't let it burn though. And for a couple minutes while that's cooking, I'm going to clean the kitchen. It's looking good. Keep stirring. It's definitely getting a darker color though. Not quite done yet though. Probably another 5 minutes before we're ready to scoop it into the sauce. Looking good. Again, about 15 minutes you want this to fry until it is looking a little bit darker color. The house is already smelling delicious. The house is going to smell delicious all day while this is slowly cooking on the burner. So my son always said that he liked waking up on Sunday morning to the smell of sauce. And I do remember when my mom made sauce, that is a great smell to wake up to, is your mom simmering sauce on the stove when you wake up in the morning. So my son grew up on the weekends sometimes waking up to the smell of Sunday sauce. So it is kind of a homey feeling in Italian households. And again, it's a great, easy recipe. It's a little bit of work in the beginning, then all you do is stir it all day and you have dinner ready. So dinner's already going to be ready because I'm just going to boil some pasta later. And we'll either make raviolis or we'll have some penne. I like to make spaghetti. So whatever your favorite pasta is, you can make for dinner on the night you make this. And you have everything. You have your meat, you have your sauce, and you have your pasta. And you can make a side salad if you want that. If you want a side salad to go with your pasta. So yeah, I'm not only making sauce for a few weeks, I'm making dinner for tonight. Let's check our paste. All right, the paste is looking much better. It's darker. It's definitely fried up. It's been cooking for about 15 minutes now. Scrape the bottom. All right, but that is looking good. It's been cooked. It is fried. It's not raw anymore. And we're gonna ready to add it to the saucepan. So let me pull the saucepan up. All right, so this is our paste. You can tell the difference in color, okay? Let's look at the paste color. It's a deeper red. And look at the sauce color, which is a lighter red. So you can tell then that the paste has been fried and it is not raw anymore, it's cooked. I'm gonna spoon this paste in with my sauce. And I'm gonna use my big sauce spoon and I'm just gonna start pulling it out of the frying pan and putting it into my saucepan. Now I want to add water to get the last bits of sauce out of this frying pan. I filled this can about a quarter of the way full, and I'm going to put it into this frying pan. Just until it's covered. That's it. You don't need a lot of water. Now I'm going to take my scraper, my spatula, and I'm going to scrape all the bits of paste from the bottom of the pan. I don't need to get the burned parts. I'm going to leave the burned parts, but anything that's not really burned to the pan, including the sides, I'm going to mix into the water. So we want to get every last bit of paste and vegetables out of the pan. So now I'm going to pour this. See how thick that is? It's a lot of good flavor right here. I'm going to pour this into the saucepan. Alright, so I've got most of that out. It's in the saucepan. I'm going to put this in the sink. And I'll soak that in a minute. Alright, now we're going to mix all the paste into the sauce. Do it gently. So we're going to incorporate all the paste into the sauce. Alright, that's looking good. Now I'm going to put the saucepan on the front burner. I'm going to cover it with this splatter. And I lowered the front burner to 2. I turned off the back burner. So we're going to let the sauce slowly heat up until it is simmering. Now, if it's simmering too much, then I'm going to lower the heat to low. And I'm going to let it simmer all day. It's 10 o'clock in the morning right now. I started this around 9 o'clock. So what are we going to do? We're going to simmer this sauce from 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock, 5:30 tonight. And that's when I'm going to put up some water for pasta, and we're going to have dinner. Then I'm going to let the sauce, I'm going to turn the heat off around 5:30, and I'm going to let the sauce start to cool down. And then after dinner, after I clean up after dinner, I will start to package up the sauce for the fridge. So I'm just going to spoon the sauce into different packages. And then tomorrow I'll pop some of those packages into the freezer. So I'll show you that later. In the meantime, I'm going to make sure the sauce is stirred well. And I'm going to wait for it to boil so I can lower the heat. So we're pretty much good for simmering, and the hard work is done. Welcome back. All right, the sauce is done. I have raviolis in a pot. Let me show you. So I have some raviolis in this pot cooking. Give it a little stir. Those are going to be done soon. All right, so that raviolis are going to be done in a few minutes. All right, I have pulled out my braciole because I have to take the string off the braciole because the braciole comes wrapped in string. All right, let me get it started. All right, so we're going to discard this string. So you're going to break apart your braciole into little pieces. It's been cooking all day. So there's some prosciutto in here and cheese and maybe some pine nuts. So I'm just going to break it apart. You can put this on the side of your pasta dish, or you can put it back in the sauce. All right, I'm going to pop this back in the sauce actually. My sauce has been cooking all day. It has cooked down quite a lot. I have my sausages in here, and now I have broken down my braciole. My raviolis are almost done. I'm going to drain them, and then I'm going to dish it up, and dinner will be served. Okay, I've drained my ravioli. These are meat ravioli. I'm going to put a little bit of sauce into this pot and mix it together so that the pasta doesn't stick together. I haven't put that much sauce in, just enough. With raviolis, you want to gently toss it. But you don't want the pasta to be white. You want the pasta to be covered in a little bit of red, and that will keep the pasta from sticking together. So notice when I make pasta, I don't add oil to the water. If you mix the pasta with sauce when it's done cooking, it will not stick together. You don't need oil. Oil makes the sauce not cling to the pasta. So, only thing I add to my pasta water is salt. That's all you need. All right, I'm going to dish this up now, and you'll see how it looks for dinner. We buy pecorino romano, grated cheese, to sprinkle on top of the pasta and the sausage. You don't want to drown the pasta in sauce. And you want to sprinkle a little bit of cheese on top. And dinner is served. Thanks for joining me for making sauce with Italian sausage and a little bit of braciole. I hope that you enjoy it. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Hello, one last note on the sauce. All right, so once you make your pot of sauce, it's cooked all day. You can have dinner. Joe and I had dinner. And then I cover the pot with a lid, turn the stove off, and let the sauce cool down at least an hour before you're going to pack it up and put it in the refrigerator. So let me show you. I've already packed up my sauce, but let me show you my empty pan. So this is my sauce pan, my sauce pot. Notice there's no burn marks on the bottom because I stirred the sauce about every half an hour and I kept the heat very low, so nothing stuck to the bottom of my saucepan, which was good. Now let's take a look at how I packed up the sauce. All right, do not pack the sauce all the way to the top of your container. You want to leave a little bit of room. Okay, you want to leave a little bit of room at the top so that when these are cool, you can pop them in the freezer and the lids will stay tight. I'm going to let those cool overnight, and then I'm going to take a few of those and pop them in my freezer. And that way, when I go back to work, I'll have a few containers of sauce for a quick and easy dinner. So now I'm done talking about my family's spaghetti sauce. See you in the next video.